بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، أنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. I praise Allah تبارك وتعالى. I ask Allah who تبارك وتعالى to send countless blessings and salutations on Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intention in all of our sayings and our deeds and our states, that we truly intend by everything we say or do to draw close to Allah in status, to earn the reward of Allah, to seek the acceptance and pleasure of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and ultimately to seek Allah. One of the lessons that I learned from our teacher, and the one who has been a great favor to us, Sayyidi Sheikh Samir, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, may Allah keep him safe and his family. Is one day, and I just showed this picture as, you know, it is a reminder for myself and maybe for others of good times when we were able to sit with our teacher and to benefit from him and to acquire a gaze from him, who he got a gaze from his teachers, from his teachers, from his teachers, and back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of all my teachers, honestly, I benefited from him over all the most. There are some teachers, of course, who I benefited greatly from in some issues, in some areas. But I'm talking about overall, the whole reality of this deen. No one have I benefited more than him, from more than him. And I remember one day we were together and I asked him, I said, Sayyidi, You have acquired so much knowledge. He is a master of the different styles of reciting the Quran. His teacher was one of the toughest in Syria, in Damascus. And he is known as one of the strictest teachers of Quran in the Sham areas. Not only that, in al-fiqh, in Hanafi fiqh, and Shafi fiqh, many people don't realize that Sheikh Hafidullah is able to teach Shafi fiqh as well. He's known as a Hanafi scholar, but he learned Shafi fiqh as well. MashaAllah. But so fiqh and aqidah and hadith, a master of hadith knowledge. Narration, the science of jarh wa ta'dil, weighing and evaluating narrators of hadith, history, biographies, scholars, Arabic language, you name it. So, and you name it. An ocean of knowledge in our time. And I said to him, I said, Sayyidi, you have all this knowledge. And I've witnessed his intellectual and academic skill on multiple occasions in many different sciences. Yes, yes, Sister Fatima. So he said to me, when I asked him that question, I said, you got all this knowledge, what's next? And he said to me, Ma'rifatullah. Subhanallah. Let me write that. Allah, Ya Rab. This statement, I never will forget it, inshallah. It really put everything in context. Excuse me. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not the fastest typer in the world. That's what he said. So when I asked him, what's next, Sayyidi? He said, Ma'rifatullah. And I'll be honest, when he said that, I looked at him and he was dead serious. Look at the face, like, and he said it with a sense of deficiency in his face, a sense of falling short. I said, you got all the knowledge, what's next? He said, Ma'rifatullah. And I stopped. And I looked at his face. I saw that look of taqsir. I'm falling short. In other words, all that was easy. This is very hard. All this knowledge, all the sciences, that was the state. Remember, I was talking earlier, I was talking about the state of a person. His state was saying, learning the Quran, learning the 10 ways to recite the Quran, and learning hadith, and learning fiqh and madhabs, and learning hadith, and learning all that. That stuff was easy. This, ma'rifatullah, is extremely difficult. That was the state in which he said it. And I looked at him and I couldn't help myself. I said, Sheikh, you don't have ma'rifatullah? I was serious. Like, if you don't have ma'rifatullah, what's the hope for us? That was my feeling when he said that. And I'm looking like, as if it was something cheap. That's my deficient understanding. As if ma'rifatullah, you got all this knowledge, you're supposed to have ma'rifah, right? That's a given in my foolish thinking. And as if he was reading what I was implying from that, because I said, you don't have ma'rifatullah? And he said to me, not every alim is an arif. So you have two types of people, more than two, but in this case, you have al-alim and al-arif. Right? I can put it this way. Right? Good. So you have these two. Right? He said you have al-alim, which is a scholar. In other words, that person, in the alim in their sense, is al-alim al-amil. الذي يعمل بعلمه. العالم هو الذي يعمل بعلمه. In their context, when they say a scholar, that means someone who knows and practices what they know. So if the one is knowledge and don't practice, he's not considered an alim, a scholar, a learned person. In their terminology, when they say scholar, they mean someone who practices what they know. Right? So that's a pious person who is alim al-rabbani, that one who practices what he knows. He said, not every alim is an arif. Not every scholar is a knower of Allah. Not every scholar is a knower of Allah. That's what he said. I was like, sitting there thinking, right? He said, when I want to know about religion, the deen, the rules of the religion, I go to al-ulama. I go to the scholars. When I want to know about Allah, I go to al-arifun. I go to the knowers of Allah. La ilaha illallah. He said, I met many of ulama, but very few arifun, very few knowers of Allah. He said, so I want ma'rifah, not just al-ilm, or al-ilm wal-amal, not just knowledge and practice, but I want ma'rifah. And from that time to the present day, I realize what is important in all of our knowledge, in all of our practice, right? That's it. And that's what he learned from his teachers, from his teachers, from their teachers, and their teachers, and their teachers, and their teachers. Back to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who said, I swear by Allah, I am the most knowledgeable of you about Allah, and that is not boasting. Subhanallah. So when you realize that the whole matter, the whole affair is about Allah, then you've won. Then you've understood. So long as something other than Allah is your objective, you've missed the whole point of your creation. Don't get distracted by anything. Make your objective, make your desire, make your thoughts, make your intentions, make your words, make your actions, make your states, make your stations, all about Allah. That is the way of the sincere people. That is the way of the sincere people. And we want to be among the sincere people whose whole reality is at-taqarrub Allah, drawing close to Allah. That's it. And maybe you won't get the opportunity, and may Allah give you the opportunity to be around the likes of Sheikh Samir. They are rare people in the world. Very rare. Like red sulfur. However, this lesson from him would suffice everything that you could learn outwardly from him. If you learn this lesson, then you have everything that he has to offer. Because everything he teaches is to get you there. And he himself, he said, I haven't got there. I believe that's out of humbleness, but for them, it's their reality. You know? And we should all work and strive and struggle till we witness this reality. As Imam al-Haddad said, Jahid to Shahid, inshallah. Sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. May Allah bless Sayyidi Sheikh and allow us to be in his company again, or him to come back and be in our company. If this pandemic has done nothing in terms of making you feel lost, was the loss of not being able to be in the company of Sayyidi Sheikh Samir because of this virus. May Allah open the doors so that we would have him in our company again. Tayyib, we reached up to the discussion in our book of enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong, so we don't lose in Sulam at-Tawfiq. We have one last section to cover. We talked about innovation yesterday, and today we're going to be back in the book Reliance of the Traveler, and this is the last day we should finish this part, and then we go on to At-Tahara, Bab al-Taharati was Salah in Sulam at-Tawfiq. We're on page 950, in which the translator has in his notes and appendices a warning against careless accusations of disbelief. Because when we enjoin what is right and forbidding what is wrong, so we forbid innovations, then we define what are innovations, so we don't forbid something that is not considered a munkar, right? But we want to be careful when forbidding the wrong, not to go overboard and to carelessly or unrightfully put the judgment of disbelief on someone who it actually doesn't apply to. And I'm going to give you a comprehensive guidance that Sheikh Samir gave us as to when the judgment of kufr, disbelief, should be applied without restriction, and then in other cases where there needs to be caution. And one of the most dangerous things in our time that we suffer from is the lack of Islamic rulership and governance, which has led to the unqualified, and we're all unqualified, taking it upon themselves to do the work of rulers and judges in the Islamic jurisprudence field. In other words, people who are not qualified to make religious rulings or judgments, making those judgments without knowledge. So, because there's no real judge, there's no real ruler, people taking it upon themselves to do the things that judges who are trained, who are educated, and rulers should do, not common people who don't have those qualifications. So, as a warning of against an evil deed is for the unqualified to go beyond their limits and to make rulings and judgments without the requisite knowledge for making those rulings and judgments. I want us to be careful. It is much safer for us to say, I don't know, than to rush into judgments without the proper qualifications. So we're going to read this section and I'll come back in more detail. Now, go ahead, inshallah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, W47.0, a warning against careless accusations of unbelief, from 08.7, number 11.
So we were talking about apostasy and what takes one out of Islam and the types of apostasy. So therefore, since we're saying apostasy means one's committed disbelief and one's outside of the fold of Islam, so then there need to be some parameters by which we apply these rulings. Now,
W47.1, Muhammad Alawi Maliki. Many people err. May Allah Ta'ala correct them in understanding the real reasons that put a person beyond the fold of Islam and necessitate that he be considered an unbeliever. One sees them rushing to judge Muslims as unbelievers for mere contraventions of sacred law, until there is hardly a Muslim on the face of the earth, save a handful.
And one of the 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 translator, he said a funny statement, and it always it makes me laugh the way he said it, because it reflects our reality. As Sayyid Muhammad Alawi al-Maliki said, one sees them rushing to judge Muslims as unbelievers for more contraventions of the sacred law, until there is hardly a Muslim on the face of the earth, save a handful. The translator, Sheikh Noah, he mentioned in one of his statements, he said, you would find it got so bad till you would find two people in a room together, and they would be saying, all the Muslims are deviant and misguided except me and you, and I'm not so sure about you. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That it got that bad. So all the Muslims are misguided except me and you, and I'm not too sure about you. Subhanallah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Go ahead.
While we endeavor to excuse such people and give them the benefit of the doubt, saying that perhaps they have a good motive, such as the intention to fulfill the obligation to command the right and forbid the wrong, what has escaped them is that they performing the duty of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong requires wisdom and goodly exhortation. And if the matter requires argument, it must be with that which is better, as Allah Ta'ala Most High says, call to the path of your Lord with wisdom and goodly exhortation, and argue with them with that which is better. Quran, Surah 16, Ayah 125. For this is likelier to gain acceptance and achieve one's purpose, and to do otherwise is error and folly.
And here is a point. Husnul dhan bil muslimin. There is a part of the obligations of the heart, and we're going to talk about it later, towards the end of the book, Sunan al-Tawfiq, to have a good opinion of the people, right? Of Muslims. So maybe the one who's rushing to judge people as kafir, right? They intend something that is good, which is enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. So that doesn't mean that even though they went to excess, that they didn't have in mind to do the right thing, but they fell short of missing some other aspects that go with enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. So even the one who may be erring or make error in their practice or in their judgments, from our side, we still got to have a good opinion of them. Even if we address their error, we address it from a side of husnul dhan, of a good opinion. Now,
if one tries to convince a Muslim who prays, fulfills the obligations of Allah Ta'ala, avoids what he has prohibited, invites people to his religion, maintains his mosque, and keeps his convenants, to accept something one feels is the truth, but he views the matter to be otherwise, and the opinion of Islamic scholars affirming and denying it has been divided since immemorial, and he will not agree with one's point of view, then if one charges him with unbelief merely because he opposes one's opinion, one has committed an enormous wrong and a grievous sin that Allah Ta'ala has forbidden, having rather called us to criticize with wisdom and graciousness.
here's the point, and this is a point. Number one, you need to know whenever you disagree with someone, this is in general, on a religious case, and please, please, please take this to heart. Whenever you disagree with someone on a religious point, you want to ensure, number one, that the thing that you disagree with is a matter of scholarly consensus that is confirmed, right? I'm talking about before you censor others. So is the position that I have something that is a case of al-ijma', right? is it a case of scholarly consensus? What happened? Allah. Allah. Is that thing that I'm censoring a case of scholarly consensus, or is it a case that there is difference of opinion among the scholars? You got to weigh that, because if it is a case of consensus, then one must forbid it. If it's a case of scholarly difference, then one has to take another approach. So it is important to distinguish between the two. Not because you hold a particular position necessitates that every other Muslim is bound to take that same position, or that all of us have to agree on every legal case, right? That's not reality. So before you censor, make sure that what you're censoring is something that deserves to be censored, right? In other words, that thing is really Islamically considered a bad doing, not a doing that is disagreed upon. Go ahead.
There is scholarly consensus that it is unlawful to charge with unbelief anyone who faces Mecca to pray, unless he denies the Almighty Creator, majestic and exalted, commits open polytheism that cannot be explained away by extenuating circumstances, denies prophethood, or something which is necessarily known as being part of the religion, or which is mutawatir, as defined in another ruling. O22.1, letter D, Roman numeral 2. Comment by Sheikh Nu Ali Salman. Whether the latter is of the Quran or Hadith, or which there is scholarly consensus upon it being necessarily known as part of the religion. Necessarily known means such things as the oneness of Allah Ta'ala, the attributes of prophethood, that prophetic messengerhood has ended with Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah Ta'ala bless him and give him peace. The resurrection on the last day, the final reckoning, the recompense, and paradise and hell, the denier of any of which is an unbeliever, and which no Muslim has an excuse for ignorance of, unless he is a new convert to Islam, who is excused until he can learn, but not afterwards. To judge a Muslim.
So Samir mentioned this case as well to us. When you're going to judge something, you should take in consideration these matters. That if the case is not a case that is ma'lum min ad-din bid-durura, it is something that is necessarily known of the religion. That's one. Or it is mutawatir, and it reached us from whole groups of Muslims, who related from whole groups of Muslims and whole groups of Muslims in such a way that its denial would entail belying the Muslim nation. And it is a case of ijma that it is necessarily known of the religion. He said, whenever these things are absent, then one cannot judge the one who believes or says or does that thing that doesn't reach that level with kufr. So when you think of all these issues, you would realize what the person who judges something as kufr needs to know. At minimum, he's going to need to know the cases of scholarly consensus, what things are necessarily known of the religion and what are not, and what things have reached us by a tawatur or not. And then, in addition to that, know the case of the one who said or believed or did that deed to know if there's any extenuating circumstances that remove the judgment of disbelief from that person. All those things need to be taken into consideration. Now,
To judge a Muslim to be an unbeliever for anything besides the above is a very dangerous thing, as has come in the Hadith. If someone says to his fellow Muslim, "You unbeliever," one of them deserves the name. It is not valid for such a judgment to
here, and I want you to realize we live in a time where people rush to say this one is a kafir, this one is a kafir, this one is a kafir. And I warn you, I warn you, I warn you, as this hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is extremely important, that whoever says to a fellow Muslim, "Oh, you disbeliever, oh, you kafir," that judgment is going to apply to one of them, right? So one should not rush in this area. And safety is always best in the religion. Taking the safe road will always save you. Now,
It is not valid for such a judgment to proceed from anyone except someone who knows the things that involve unbelief from those that acquit one of it, in the light of the sacred law and the strict demarcation between faith and unbelief according to the standards of the law of Islam.
and here, that is important, that you would find a person giving the judgment of disbelief to someone, and the person giving that judgment doesn't even know his fard ayn, doesn't even know the basic rules of his personal obligations, let alone someone else. But he's issuing the judgment of kufr. He doesn't even know how to make istinja properly, or the rules of prayer, or the rules of fasting, or hajj, or zakat, or the essentials of belief. Yet he's judging someone as kafir. Worse, like before they said, son's an innovator, that's bad. But to reach to the level of considering someone kafir without not alone knowledge of the sacred law, not even knowledge of the basic obligations of the religion. Now,
It is not permissible for any human being to rush onto the field and charge another with unbelief on the basis of opinions and imaginings, without having checked and made sure, and without firm knowledge. Otherwise, the torrent would flood the valley floor, and not a Muslim would remain on the face of the earth except a few.
I remember a person, he was kafir, 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 every other word out of his mouth. This one is kafir, this one is kafir, this one is kafir. And someone asked him, I never forget this, name a scholar other than your teachers who is not misguided or a kafir. And I was listening when that statement was made, and no answer, nothing. SubhanAllah. And he said, there are others. Okay, who are those others? No answer. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Out of the thousands of scholars around the world, you couldn't come up with any besides your own teachers? That should tell you something. Thousands over the whole world, Muslims. Thousands of scholars around the world. And you can't name any? except a vague indication that there are others, unknown others. This is bad. That's how bad rushing into this area is. And it goes back to that statement that it would be as if there's no Muslims left on the earth. Just your group, just your teachers, no one else. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Naam.
The Imam of the two sanctuaries, remarked by the translator, Juwayni, has said, if we were to ask to distinguish the expressions that deserve to be considered unbelief from those that do not, we would reply that this is a wish for something pointless to wish for, being too distant a reach and too stony a path to tread, involving as it does the very basis of the science of divine unity. Someone who does not attain to the furthest reaches of the facts cannot arrive at anything reliable to vindicate his criteria for unbelief.
Here, who is Imam Juwayni? Let's see if we remember. I told you. Who is Imam al-Haramain, Imam al-Juwayni? Who was he? I thought we would finish today. I'm sorry. Maybe we still can. We can finish. Who is Imam Juwayni? Allah. I mentioned it yesterday. Come on. And for all you Shafi'is, what is his famous book in Shafi'i fiqh written by Imam al-Juwayni? What's the name of it? I told you that too. The student of Imam al-Shafi'i. No. One of the teachers of Imam al-Ghazali. Naam. Okay, good. What school was he over? He was the head of what school? He offered the book Warakat. That's not in Shafi'i fiqh. What is that book in Imam Fahim? Al-Warakat is in what science? He's the author of Warakat. You're right. What science that? That's not Shafi'i fiqh though. What science is that? What field of study? Al-Warakat. Right. Isla. Al-Madrasa Nidhamiyya. The school of Nidham al-Mulk in Naysabur. Right. Right. So Al-Warakat is a Surah Fiqh, yeah, Muhammad. That's true. Okay. Now, yes, Imam Fahim, Shaykhuna. What book in Shafi'i Fiqh, major book that he wrote? So everyone who says Shafi'i and don't name this book, you're not a Shafi'i. You're a wannabe Shafi'i. No, I'm joking. Nihayat al-Matlab. Khalil, you have graduated from Maliki to Shafi'i. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Okay, yesterday, last quick question. Yesterday, we were talking about a great scholar who summarized Nihayat al-Matlab. Who was that scholar? Let's see if y'all catching all this stuff. I think I'm a Shafi'i. You want to be? Me too. I can tell you a funny joke after this about this book, Nihayat al-Matlab. Okay, who summarized Nihayat al-Matlab? What great scholar? I told you about it yesterday. See if y'all were paying attention. They say in reviewing there's a benefit. So what scholar summarized the book Nihayat al-Matlab? And he was an important scholar when we were talking about al-Bid'ah. Are y'all taking notes? Or am I talking too fast? MashaAllah. Muhammad Al-Iz ibn Abdus Salam. He wrote a summary of Nihayat al-Matlab. MashaAllah. That is good. Is ibn Abdus Salam. Is ibn Abdus Salam. MashaAllah. Y'all good. See, we're doing it. Okay. What year did Is ibn Abdus Salam die? Let's see if we can push the envelope. When did Is ibn Abdus Salam die? Just give me the century. You don't got to give me the exact date. If you give me the exact date, that's great. But give me the century. When did he die? Is ibn Abdus Salam. And what was his title? When did he die? Either the exact year or the century. And what was his title? And then I'll stop. I'll go continue. I'll stop the questions. Not 6th century. Y'all got the book. All you got to do is quickly go to the section 660. MashaAllah. Na al-Qadi. Come on, Muhammad. What was his title? What was his title? So 660, Khalil Abdul Malik is right. Alhamdulillah, barakallahu fihi. We're going to move that Maliki title. Come Shafi. It's not haram to change madhab. Right? MashaAllah. Sultan al-Ulama. Yes. The Sultan of the scholars. MashaAllah. Great. All right, okay, go ahead. Continue.
Because of this, we urge the utmost caution in other than the above-mentioned cases against careless accusations of unbelief, for they are extremely dangerous, and Allah Ta'ala guides to the best of ways, and unto Him is the final destination. Mafahim yajibu and tusahaha.
Yes.
3, 5-7.
Which book is that? We read some of it when we were talking about innovation. Which book is that? It's written by Muhammad Alawi al-Maliki. We've been reading that book. What is it? We read it when we were talking about innovation. And when we talked about the Asharis. What book is it? So those who know Arabic should translate it easily. And it was written by Muhammad Alawi al-Maliki. We read it earlier in the classes when we were talking about al-Asha'ira and we were talking about al-Bid'ah the first time. We read from that book. It was a separate book we read. Come on, I should remember all this stuff. We're moving. There you go. More notions, right? Notions that need to be corrected. That's the book that was related from. So if you have that book, it's available on the website. It's a very beneficial book. And all of these issues to read, mashallah. One day we're going to read the whole book, inshallah, when we get more time. Now, go ahead. Next book. The next section.
Deviations and aberrations that are unquestionably invalid. W47.2. Muhammad Saeed Booty. We do not consider deviations and aberrations to include any position reflecting a disagreement between Islamic scholars resulting from their differences on derived rulings or particular applications of sacred law, for these all return to its basic methodology. Rather, we categorically affirm that this is a normal variance entailed by the very nature of the case, as discussed in a previous ruling, B6.2, and its methodological basis, but we subject these various viewpoints to an examination of which is the soundest, classifying them according to their relative strengths and weaknesses, each of us through his own reasoning, ijtihad, and judgment.
So here, whenever you have difference of opinion between scholars in the details of the religion, not the foundational beliefs, in details of the religion, we don't consider as deviant and being misguided. Rather, we weigh the strength of each opinion according to the evidences and proofs from which they were built. Now, and when I say we, this is the Ahl Sunnah, meaning the scholars do that, not us, right? Because we don't even have the tools, to be honest, as common people, to even do the work, right? Like, I, I'm going to probably figure out one to just take you through just a tour of the Shafi'i books, right? In the Shafi'i school, alone of what you need to know, what you need to be aware of, to even discuss the differences within one school, let alone other schools, right? But maybe I will discuss that coming up between the different schools. Just knowing the amount of knowledge and literature in one school, just to understand, yes, to understand this case. Go ahead.
Nor do deviant and aberrant opinions necessarily entail the unbelief of the people who hold them, or being beyond the pale of Islam. Rather, there are some opinions so deviant that they reach the degree of negating what is necessarily known as being part of the religion, leading to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah Ta'ala bless him and give him peace, termed open unbelief. Others whose deviance reaches only the degree of being a violation of the methodological principles concurred upon by the scholars of the Arabic language, and hence by the scholars of Islamic law, entailing blameworthy innovation, bid'ah, and perhaps corruption and turning from the truth without excuse, and still others whose deviance and aberrance wavers between reaching actual unbelief and merely falling within the bounds of corruption and blameworthy innovation. The honest and sincere investigator, not finding any firm basis to consider them unbelief, yet not being able to accept with confidence that they are only a marginal deviance that does not compromise the person who holds them or put him outside of Islam.
And here he's given levels. Some things, they reach the level of explicit, clear disbelief. There's no argument about that. There are some things that they reach the level of the innovation, and they're not valid, and you cannot accept it, but it doesn't reach the level of disbelief. Then there are those cases that waver between the two, right? And here, when you're not talking something that's clear disbelief, you need to consider, right, other factors in dealing with those things. Even if it is a vile innovation, that doesn't mean you accept it. But you don't have to take everything to the extreme level, right? Now, go ahead.
In dealing with this category of deviations and intellectual aberrances, we prefer to follow the way of greater precaution, which in this text which in this context consists of understanding people's state insofar as possible as if they were still within the fold of Islam and under its rubric. For the mistake of giving them the benefit of the doubt does not entail the losses entailed by making a mistake by not giving them it and accusing them of unbelief and having left Islam, despite which we spare no effort to explain their corruption, and that they have innovated something Allah Ta'ala Almighty and Majestic has not given leave to, explaining their deviation from the methodology agreed upon by the scholars of this community, and warning people not to be misled by them or affected by their false beliefs. Al-Salafiyya, Marhala, Zamaniya, Mubaraka la Madhab Islami.
And he wrote this book, meaning he wrote this book as Salafiyya in refuting the modern day Wahhabi innovations. And he was explaining that the term as Salafiyya, which refers to as Salaf as-Salih, the rightly guided predecessors, is a blessed period of its time in our Islamic history, the first three generations. That's not a madhab, that's not a school of Islamic thought, right? So we don't say, I follow the Salaf as a madhab. There is no madhab called the Salaf in terms of jurisprudence. There is methodology that they use, but as for a madhab as a school of thought that is known to have its principles and its methodology and its details and its scholars, and it's been checked and verified like the four schools. That doesn't exist. Rather, the four schools are from the scholars of the Salaf, and that's why they developed schools to refine and systematize that knowledge that they received from their teachers who were actually from the Salaf. In fact, the imams of the four schools are from the time of the Salaf. So this is an important aspect to understand. But the point here we want, and I'll close with this, that don't rush to make the judgment of kufr on people. Let's take our time and learn. So what I want from these gatherings and our sessions, don't leave these sessions and go out and start arguing with people and debating with people. Learn. And learn to protect yourself from misguidance. Learn to protect yourself from bad ideas. And then as you learn more and evidence and you understand well, you can express well, you can explain well, you know the differences of opinions, and we'll learn those things in time. Until then, just learn what you need, share beneficial things with others, but don't argue, don't debate. Definitely don't get into calling people names and kafir and this and that, right? When I say Wahhabi, I'm not calling a name. I'm just identifying a group of people, and that's what they were known by, right? So when I say Wahhabi, don't think I'm making a name and bad against somebody. I'm just identifying the people who have these ideas. That's it, right? My name is Amin Muhammad, right? I'm not going to get mad because someone called me Amin and no, that's my name. That's who I am, right? So if I say, I'm Abu Aidarus or Abu Amin, and you say, no, you Amin, I am Amin, not mad. I'm also Abu Aidarus. I'm Abu Amin. I'm Abu Sa'diya. Yeah, I have other names too, right? I represent, but I'm not known by that. So you won't know it. It can deceive you. If I say Abu Amin, someone say I was listening to Abu Amin on the computer, you're not going to know who he's talking about. You're going to think he's talking about somebody else. But if you say Abu Amin, no, that's Amin Muhammad, you're going to know who it is, right? I do have. My son's name is Amin. So you can say Abu Amin, right? I am the father of Amin. But you don't know me by that. And you might think I'm somebody else, right? But if you say Amin Muhammad, you know exactly who I am. So when I say Wahhabi, I'm just making sure you know who I'm talking about. Because if I use other names like Salafi, you're going to think something else. You might think I'm talking about the Salaf Saleh and this is the right way. No, I'm talking about these Wahhabi people. That's it. But as far as judging the individual, we're not even talking about that case. We're just clarifying terms, right? So no one's confused, right? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So if the Wahhabi person gets mad and says, he calling names, I'm not calling names. You call yourself Salafi, isn't that a name? Okay, I better know you as Wahhabi. It's the same thing. If we take away the name and then we say, what is your belief? This. Who do you follow? This. What is your methodology? This. That's Wahhabi. Now you can call it whatever you want to call it. That's Wahhabi. That's what we know it as in our Islamic tradition. Before you came up with that name Salafi, the same ideas you're talking about, the same people you're talking about, we call them Wahhabi. They call themselves Wahhabi. Right? That's reality. The brother of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he has a book called As-Sawa'iq al-Ilahiyya fi Radd ala al-Wahhabiyya. He wrote the book in the time of his brother while he was alive, and he called them Wahhabiyya. If you study all of the books of the scholars in that time, no one said Salafiyya, they all said Wahhabi. all around the Islamic world, anywhere you go. If you read a book from the past 100 years and before, right? From the time they started, for 100 years, you won't find in no book in anywhere in the world in the Islamic library, except that they use the term Wahhabiyya. That label or that title, that's what they're known of. Go look in the books. Amin Muhammad didn't make that word up. In all of the books of all the scholars from east to west, north and south, that's what you're going to find in the books. Whenever they talk about those ideas, they're going to say Al-Firqatul Wahhabiyya, Al-Ta'ifatul Wahhabiyya, the Wahhabi group. That's what they're known for. Now, because you change your name, and I recognize who you are. So it's only identifying. Now, when we talk about individuals in case, that's a whole nother story. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I'll take 5 minutes, inshallah, to take a few questions. I'm sorry for going over a little bit. I try to get it finished, but sometimes time escapes me. So please understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. Even if you disagree, just understand what I'm saying, though. You don't have to agree with me. Just understand where I'm coming from. That's justice. Farouk, are you serious? Allah. I would say the person is confused and they need to be taught. That's all. You never cease to amaze me. Did somebody really said that or you made that up? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. They need to learn. They don't know. La ilaha illallah. Hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. No other questions? Good. Alhamdulillah. I think that's it. MashaAllah. I think that's it. Oh, I want to, whoa, excuse me. Okay, no other questions. Good. MashaAllah. I want to remind you tonight of you got the flyer for the Black Imams Roundtable? If the Sahih Prophet said, pray as you see me pray, would standing 6 feet apart be permissible as his sunnah? So that's two different questions. One question is sunnah, and one question is it valid? So that's two different questions. If you mean standing 6 feet apart, is it sunnah? Absolutely, it's not the sunnah. That's well known. Is it valid? It relates to the situation and the condition and where it's being done and all of that thing. So that is learning al-fiqh. That has nothing to do with sunnah, because in al-fiqh, you have what is an obligation, what is valid, what is recommended, what is more rewardable. It has cases. So these people walking around and, oh, they don't understand between what is obligatory, what is valid, what is recommended, what is permissible, what invalidates, what does not invalidate. This is fiqh. It has nothing to do with just something being sunnah. Because you don't fulfill a sunnah doesn't mean the prayer is invalid. Not at all. Right? So you need to learn the rules of al-fiqh. Right? And that's why I say microwave Islam don't help. Everyone wants to just put it in the oven and cook. Learn the rules of the religion. Learn ahkam al-fiqhiyya. Learn the rules of the judgment. Follow a madhab. Learn to distinguish between what is obligatory, what is not obligatory. Please learn the rules of the religion. And then I would ask anyone, the one who says that and criticize and do all that for the ones who standing 6 feet apart, why, according to any madhab that you said that's invalid and the prayer is invalid and they're wrong, show me in any madhab why you say that. And that's an opening discussion. And then give me the conditions to when it's valid and not valid before you make inkar. I heard someone say, everyone who prays 6 feet apart, their prayer is invalid. From who told you that? Where did you get that from? Where did you get that from? You know how big that statement is to say that? You just said the scholarly consensus on praying 6 feet apart is invalid. That's the intent. That's the outcome of your statement. That if you pray 6 feet apart, your prayer is invalid. So that means you know all the madhahib, the 4, Hanafi, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali, and all the rules and the conditions of a valid leadership, an imam and follower, according to every school. Knock it off. Stop. I'd be willing to guarantee that the person who made that statement don't know one school, let alone all 4, to make such a statement. And I know one school you totally wrong. It's called the Shafi'i school. So I know you ain't get it from there. Learn, please, before you make inkar. That's what we're talking about. Learn before you criticize. Before you say something's wrong, make sure you know what you're talking about. If you would say, according to my school of thought, whatever that may be, this is not valid, that's one story. But then I'm going to question you according to your school, because I'm not quite sure you understand your school well. And all that relates to it in every case, and what is a necessity, and what to do in these situations. And that's a fatwa you just gave. And you are mufti? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Sad. Not saying you the one who asked the question. We got to knock it off. Really. We go way beyond the bounds. It's much easier to say, I don't know. It's much easier. Much easier. It doesn't even take a lot of energy. La adri, I don't know. Sa'as'al, I will ask. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Tell you, tonight, yes, you have to pick a school of thought. Why? Because you have to follow the rules of religion. And the only way you're going to learn the rules of religion properly is by following a qualified scholar. And the qualified scholar is going to teach you the way the qualified scholars are following madhahib for rules of the religion. As Allah said, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And we don't know, so we have to follow people of knowledge. Those are the scholars, the mujtahidun, and we follow them. That's a whole discussion. I'm going to read something to y'all. One of my teachers wrote, it was beautiful, on why to follow a madhab and how knowledge, Islamic knowledge is transferred. So I'm going to share it with you one of these days, inshallah. We're getting ready to go into fiqh tomorrow, so put on your Shafi'i fiqh hat, inshallah, as we continue in our book. Barakallahu fikum. We'll see you tonight at the round table. Please I remind you, I have to remind myself, please make your intentions and press the share button. Share the video so that we can spread what we have of benefit and share it to others who don't have access. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakum Allahu khaira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.